How you guys doing? Good.
Good evening. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Show Low City Council to order. By roll call, see that all council members are present with the exception, we'd like to excuse Councilwoman Kakavas tonight, Councilmember Hatch, and we hope to have Councilmember Kelly here shortly. We'd like to begin this evening. We'd like to welcome those of you from the public that are here tonight, as well as those who may be watching us on City 56 or any other means of whatever it is, telecommunication devices. I always have a struggle with that one. We'd like to begin tonight with an invocation and a pledge of allegiance. Those who'd like to join us may stand for an invocation. At this time, we've asked Councilmember Rennie Crinton if he'd lead us in that. I'm sorry, Councilmember Alsop, I apologize.
Our gracious and Heavenly Father, we thank you for letting us be here tonight, and we just ask that you be with each one of us as we deliberate on the things that happens in the city of Show Low tonight. And we just ask that you continue to bless our armed servicemen here in the United States and abroad. And we just thank you that your grace and your mercy just rest on Show Low with all the rain and the greenery that we have. And we just ask that you continue to bless us. And we ask this in your precious name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Alsop and Councilmember Crittenden. Appreciate that. I'd like to begin this evening here with a call to the public. Any citizen desiring to speak on a matter that's within the jurisdiction of the city may do so at this time. Your comments are limited to 3 minutes per person, and issues raised shall be limited to those within the jurisdiction of the city council. Know that at the conclusion, we cannot act or make comments concerning, and keep your comments directed to us as a whole. This time we'll open call to the public. Donna Millett.
I'm going to talk quick. I don't want to use up my 3 minutes. I have been dealing with an issue for over 4 years now. It has to do with the culverts on my yard. The waste management trucks have constantly been pulling onto my yard, and they have smashed my culverts, and they have ripped them open, and I am on a low spot on the cul-de-sac of my street. I have had water coming down my flagstone steps over actually to my porch, almost to my front door. And I have a whole series of things I won't go into. I have them dated, and I only brought 8 copies. I didn't know how many city council members were there.
You can just give a copy to the clerk and that's
Okay.
fine.
This has to be addressed. I mean, I have been told one of the public, I'm trying to think of what they're called. They did come out and check my property on the 1st of July, Rick Austin from Public Works. He verified that it is a big, big problem. He sent 2 men out to come up with the solution on how the water can be diverted. And there is a center lot owned by the city, which they feel the culverts should be diverted to that. So they're not, I'm really worried about my home, about the water collecting underneath it. It's a manufactured home, and I don't have a concrete base in the front, but there's a huge retaining wall in the back because it's on, the deck is on stilts and part of the house is on a retaining wall. I'm sorry, losing my voice. I'm pleading for this to be corrected. Everything will be set up here. I have sent an email to the Public Works, and I have not received a response from it. It was sent the middle of July. but this has been going on. In December, I received a call from the Public Works Department, and I'm in Yuma in the wintertime. And they said to me, they promised me it would be put on the spring schedule to be taken care of. Nothing ever happened. I don't know the name of the man because my paperwork for that is in Yuma, my records. So
Okay.
I would really like the consideration of the city council if they can do something about this matter.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
For your
Thank you. If
time.
you just give that to the clerk and
We can ask her a question.
Thank you very much for your time.
can't respond.
Do I
We
have
can
to
ask
stay
a
for the
question
rest
if you
of
want
the-
to.
I know.
Maybe we can.
If we do, you do. No, you don't. No, you don't.
Ma'am,
You
I
have a question.
I have a question for you. Have you talked to Waste Management at all?
No. I
Okay.
don't. I know the city
take
is
care of it.
contracted with them, and that's why I contacted the city.
Okay.
I was never told I needed to contact Waste
No,
Management.
okay. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Don.
Thank you. for your-
Anyone else at this time? At this time, I'll just request staff that they would get with Ms. Millett and see what they can do to work through a resolution for her at this time. Seeing no one else to call to the public, I'll close call to the public and come back for a consent calendar. The items we have tonight on consent calendar is consideration of award of a purchase of water meters, also a consideration of amendment to agreement of Meals on Wheels for managing Shoalo Senior Center, and consideration of award of purchase of laboratory services, and then the minutes of the July 21st, 2015 City Council meeting. Is there an item on here that needs to be pulled or discussed here?
I do have a question. We can either pull it or I'll just ask. the
Just ask
question.
the question on.
Okay, item D, consideration award of purchase of laboratory services. There was a article in the paper a number of months ago about a local company, a Mr. John Dahl, who was the former head of Safe Water Division of ADEQ, and he was going to be qualified to do water testing. And the question is, why aren't we using him?
Mr. Cup?
The reason we don't use him is he only does drinking water testing. So he can't do all of the testing that we require. It's much easier for, and actually cheaper for the city to package the water and the wastewater testing materials and get them to Legend.
Okay.
Councilmember Alsop?
I move to accept the consent calendar as presented.
We have a motion to approve the consent calendar. Is there a second? Second by Vice Mayor. Any other discussion? Not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? See that passed 5-0. Next item is new business, consideration of a preliminary development plan for Woodfield, a recreational vehicle park. Mr. Trugaskis.
Mayor, if you give me a second, looks like I need to turn the monitor on here. Okay, there we go. A little bit of a background. At its regular meeting of July 28th, 2015, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval of the preliminary development plan for a project called Woodfield, a recreational vehicle park, submitted by Bruce Ironside of White Mountain Vacation Parks LLC, subject to staff recommendations. This project, approximately 14.29 acres in size, is proposed to be located within the White Mountain Vacation Village property boundary. That is shown on the aerial indicated in front of you. The proposed total unit count is 174 units. Ordinance number 364, approved by the Shoalo City Council in July of 1993, established the White Mountain Vacation Village Planned Unit Development, which established the criteria for development within White Mountain Vacation Village. The criteria included an allowance for private streets with a minimum one-way street width of 12 feet and 100 acres of RV park with a maximum overall density of 13.5 units per acre. The submitted preliminary development plan shows an overall density of 12.17 units per acre, with 30-foot wide two-way private roads consisting of a 20-foot wide improved surface and modified roll curb. This project is currently proposed to be a recreational vehicle park with rental spaces. Conversion to individual private lots would require final plat approval by the City Council. The applicant also stipulated that the required emergency access would be put in place with the second phase of the project and that street lighting would be coordinated with city staff. Staff has reviewed the submitted preliminary development plan and has found it meets the requirements of city code as well as the White Mountain Vacation Village PUD requirements. I'd also like to read the commission recommendations at this time for the council. All development shall comply with all applicable federal, state, and local requirements. The project, including number of lots and overall density, shall be developed in substantial compliance to the submitted preliminary development plan. Prior to construction taking place on the subject property, the city shall approve all required infrastructure design, including street layout, drainage plans, fire hydrant locations, and water and wastewater plans. The applicant shall submit the master drainage plan with a stamped letter indicating compliance with the master drainage plan. All roads shall be surfaced in accordance with City Code Section 15157F11. Radius requirements for emergency vehicles shall be met. In addition, a secondary emergency access shall be provided. Again, I'd like to emphasize that the applicant has stipulated that that would be provided with the second phase of this project. Individual lots shall not be sold unless developed in accordance with an approved final plat. And trees are of an utmost importance. As much as possible, street design, lot layout, and unit placement shall be coordinated to save trees. Both staff as well as the applicant are available for questions.
Any questions of staff? I guess my question is just help me understand, are we okay with our sewer and our water in that area for this?
Let me get to. This is a preliminary development plan. You can kind of see the proposed layout. Here we are a little bit closer. We are requiring that they submit improvement plans for water and wastewater or sewer. So we will review those to make sure that all water and wastewater requirements are being met. There is some discussion about how the sewer will be served to this project. The applicant is aware of that and is working with the adjacent property owner to ensure that the sewer can be taken care of.
So there isn't anything that puts us liability there until it's met, right?
No.
Okay. Any other questions? Any questions of the applicant? Mr. Kelly?
Yeah, looking at this, doesn't appear there's any cul-de-sacs. So saying that all curve radiuses have to meet emergency vehicle requirements just means they can go down the road without having to back up?
Essentially, there's a couple areas that there were questions on, why, and that's why you see this recommendation. You can see some of these T intersections. Because of the widths of the proposed roads, there is a little bit of a question as to whether a full-length emergency vehicle could make that radius. That's why the commission is recommending that they ensure that those radius be able to meet those requirements. So you may see a little bit of adjustment as far as where the actual lot lines are, just to make sure that they can swing those corners.
And that would be like a fire truck, or
Yes.
an ambulance would be a regular vehicle?
Right. And, you know, from the applicant's position, they need to be able to make sure that a fifth wheel can get through there just as well as a fire truck. So their understanding of that condition and certainly accept it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Alsop?
Is there any limits on the length of the fifth wheels or anything else that they can put on these things, or is there?
There is, if we go here, these are the kind of the typical RV lot layouts. You can see the lots are approximately 60 feet by 44. That will vary. Some lots will be larger than that. You can see there's a 10-foot section there on the front that is essentially a open space, no touch buffer. One is shown with the hash marks, the other is not. The one without the hash marks, they may need to do some terracing or some different things in there, but essentially it's a setback. You would not have a fifth wheel or some other type unit placed in that 10-foot. If we look at the next one, we can see the typical setbacks. They've got a 10-foot front yard setback and a 10-foot rear yard setback. So essentially that's going to govern the maximum length of a fifth wheel or other type recreational vehicle that could be placed on the lot. So for example, a 60-foot lot, maximum length would be 40 foot. Yep.
Thank you, Justin.
I guess my question too is where do they, I don't see anything on this plat for like maintenance or maintenance yard or any equipment that would be stored. Can you explain where that might be? Because normally these units or subdivisions have some type of requirement there.
There is, if you look here, kind of in the center,
What those are?
that's proposed recreation facility. I'm looking real close here. Proposed office type, and then you can see down here, they have some proposed storage locations and some different things.
Okay.
It would be incumbent on the applicant to provide any type of storage of maintenance items.
Okay.
And again, you may see some adjustments of lots based on that. If they need to come in and store some equipment, they may end up with 172 lots instead of what's proposed here.
Any other questions? Vice Mayor?
Justin, is there some kind of a landscaping plan on this? I mean, I know the trees were one of the big things that you want to keep in there, but I know with RVs and sewers and all the stuff that they're going to have to run underground with the trees, there's a lot of pine trees and cedars. I think there's some cedars in there, so all that roots could cause issues down the road. So is there a landscaping plan that they're proposed, or, because from looking at this picture, I know it's really deceiving. It looks like a parking lot full of spots, so.
They are proposing to maintain as many trees as possible throughout the project. That is one of their primary concerns. They are proposing perimeter fencing along this project, both where they abut existing White Mountain Vacation Village as well as the commercial property there to kind of the south. There is no specific landscaping plan for the individual lots. However, in their project narrative, as well as in their rules of compliance, I guess, for the individual lots and the renters that are using each one of those lots, they have put stipulations that they are to maintain the existing landscaping or trees as much as possible. Certainly, there's going to be some impacts.
Is that something that we can be there while they do that? I mean, you know how easy it is to clear cut somewhere. So, I mean, are we going to be able to enforce that and be there and kind of oversee that thinning out in there?
That's the purpose of the last condition that you see recommended
Right.
by the commission. Certainly, that is something that we are concerned about, and we will be working with the applicant. He has indicated that there may be some lot lines that get adjusted. You know, if they have a nice tree that falls right square where a RV would go, let's adjust those lots a little bit so that we can keep that tree and put the RV to the side of it. So they have made that commitment.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yeah, I'm just going to observe that the value of this property hinges on the trees. So if a developer were foolish enough to go in there and be cutting a bunch of trees he didn't need to, that'd be really, really foolish. Wouldn't mean that the trees weren't gone. I get that, you know what I'm saying? But I think you'll find that they'll be very conservative on tree removal.
Councilmember Alsop?
Thank you, Mayor. Justin, you just alluded to a privacy fence or something to border this here. What kind of fence? Because I was reading and I haven't seen anything on the commission's, what kind of fence is going to be put up or anything else to block it or to differentiate this subdivision with the other one?
Right. Along the east side, where they abut the existing White Mountain Vacation Village, they are proposing to do a side obscuring wood fence along there, so a solid material wood type fence. Along the portion of the project that abuts the Vacation Village Drive, they're actually looking to do something maybe a little bit more decorative, where they might do a fence that comes up about 4 feet or so, and then like some wrought iron or something along the top there. And then the portion that abuts the commercial, again, they are proposing the 6-foot solid wood fence along that location as well. The main thing that they're trying to do is remain consistent with what is already in place in White Mountain Vacation Village. They don't want to do something that is less than what's taken place. They don't want to do something that necessarily is out of place there as well. So what you see there would be consistent with what is there currently in White Mountain Vacation Village.
Thank you.
Councilmember Crittenden.
Unless there's more questions, I move to approve the preliminary development plan for Woodfield, a recreational vehicle park, subject to the conditions of approval specified by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
We have a motion. Is there a second? I have a second by Councilmember Kelly. Any other discussion? See no other discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? See that passed 5-0. Next item is the Hanger Dance, a consideration of an application submitted by Jerry D. Howe for a special event liquor license for a Hanger Dance on August 15, 2015 at Shola Regional Airport. Ms. Kurosaki.
Thank you, Mayor. Jerry Howell, who represents the Hanger Dance Organization, submitted an application, as you said, for a special event liquor license for the first ever Hanger Dance, which will be held on August 15 from 5 to 10 p.m. It will be held in the Sunrise Air Ambulance hangar at the airport, and this application is to allow the sale and consumption of alcohol during the dinner and dance. And the group has assured us that the alcohol will be sold and consumed within the hangar only, and they will have members of the Sheriff's Auxiliary stationed at the 2 exits to ensure that no alcohol leaves the premises. We did a background check, or actually the police department did a background check on the applicant and found nothing that would preclude approval by the council. The application and a written notice of your action tonight will be forwarded to the Department of Liquor Licenses and Control, and that organization will be the one to either deny or approve the application.
Thank you.
And Mr. Howell is here, should you have any questions of him.
Any comments or questions? Now I'll look for a motion. Councilmember Alsop.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the application submitted by Jerry D. Howe for a special event liquor license for a Hanger Dance on August 15th, held in the Sunrise Air Ambulance hangar at the Shola Regional Airport.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second by Vice Mayor. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? See that passed 5-0. Thank you. The next item is consideration of acceptance of well number 13 repairs and the approval of the change order here. Mr. Cupp.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. In 2005, with the completion of Shola Bluff Phase 1, the City Council accepted the public infrastructure from the developer, which included well number 13. Because of the extremely abrasive coconino sand in the aquifer at well 13, the developer chose to install a center lift pump. This new pump technology was recommended because of its resiliency to sand and has performed very well under abrasive conditions. Since the original installation in 2005, the pump has been replaced only once. In late 2014, well production began to drop, which indicated the pump was close to the end of its service life. The sole distributor for the center lift technology, Beam & Drilling, removed the pump and motor and shipped it to the manufacturer for testing, which confirmed the pump and motor both needed to be replaced. At the April 7th, 2015 meeting, the City Council approved replacing the pump and motor for well number 13, which was approximately 10 years old. The original contract award was $108,848.53. On June 2nd, Beam & Drilling installed the pump and motor. Upon completing the installation, the newly installed piping failed at one of the threaded connections during the initial startup and testing, which resulted in the pump and approximately 190 feet of pipe dropping into the well. Fortunately, the pump only dropped about 8 to 10 feet. The pump was returned to the manufacturer for testing. It was found to be in good condition and minor repairs were necessary. Because the city was in the highest water usage season, staff deemed the repair and reinstallation as an emergency and proceeded with an emergency purchase pursuant to the purchasing section of the city code, section 3-1-1E10. Additional costs were incurred for cleaning sand from the bottom of the well, purchasing new electrical wire, replacing the old well pipe, retrieving the pump and pipe, and reinstalling the pump into the well. An emergency change order totaling $51,805.61 was issued, which included $12,912 $1,000,000.47 for retesting the pump and replacing bearings and bearing seal. This work was completed and has been invoiced. Staff subsequently contacted a materials testing laboratory to perform a failure analysis to determine if the failure was due to material or workmanship. This determination is important because the materials were supplied by one vendor and the pump was installed by another. When a cause is determined, staff will assess liabilities. The laboratory report is expected to be delivered within the next week. And just in addition to that, we did receive the metallurgical report and the failure analysis. And it was determined in that report, in the summary, that the issue was that the coupling that was used had threads that weren't to the specification. So it was the coupling and a materials failure. And then with that, staff recommends accepting the replacement of well number 13, approving a change order in the amount of $51,805.61, releasing the final payment, and beginning the one-year warranty period. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Vice Mayor?
So with that report, who's liable?
We are going to be talking to the material supplier. It would be, in our opinion, it's a material supplier. We're going to invite them into a meeting so we can talk about this here later on in the week.
So when we hire somebody to put the pump in, they hire somebody to get the supply? I don't get where that's.
Actually, the city bid the materials, and then we bid the installation. So the city separated those two out. We had 3 bids for the pipe materials. It had several sections of stainless steel pipe and couplings and several sections of galvanized pipe and couplings.
And we purchased that and they installed it.
We purchased that, gave it to the installer, and they installed it.
Thank you.
I didn't see who was first. Councilmember Critton.
From the city attorney's viewpoint, where are we on this?
Well, just like you said, we just got the report on Friday. We're going to, review it again and sit down with the material supplier. But at this point, the installer of the well, we feel like is not liable. He installed it, and so we're ready to proceed with the change order and pay him off. So we'll be bringing back to the council, I'm sure, more information as we study the report and meet with the material supplier.
Councilmember Alsop.
I guess I have concerns because if I remember right, I asked the question is why are we paying for engineering of that? And I think your answer was we have to have somebody there watching them put it in so we don't goof anything up, that whatever we're purchasing to put in is done right, or something happened.
That comes from the pump manufacturer.
But still, if we have the engineer watching it, or we're paying for a guy to watch it there, isn't some of the liability on him?
I guess it's really not my place to determine that, but I will say that in order to determine that the threads weren't to spec in the coupling, they actually had to do some microscopic photographs and a lot of scaling. It wasn't the sort of thing that you could see with your naked eye.
Yeah, and I agree with that. The only thing is we okayed for an engineer to be there, and I can't remember what the price of that engineer was, but it was a little bit costly. And I just, why do we pay for an engineer to do that when, so that's my concern. But I totally agree with what Mayor and Vice Mayor said, that, once we find out what happened, I'm hoping there's some money coming back someplace.
Mr. Brown.
Mr. Alsop, just for my understanding and clarification is the engineer is an engineer for the pump company to make sure that the pump is installed correctly. He's not necessarily
Not
there
with all the threading.
engineering to make sure all the piping and everything was installed
Okay.
correctly.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. It can't help but wonder, if a supplier supplied couplings and one of them they supplied is not to specs, is the rest of that column hanging on other couplings that are not to spec?
That's a very good question. And
I thought so.
Mr. Mooter and I actually have had this conversation. When Beeman came back and reinstalled that pump, they did not reinstall the galvanized pipe and couplings. They purchased new black pipe and couplings to replace that galvanized pipe. So none of the couplings from that original installer were reused in well 13.
And it's black pipe, like you'd use in gas?
Well, it's big, it's 6-inch diameter, but it's
Not highly subject to rust?
steel pipe.
I mean, that's acceptable in the water, evidently.
That was at the emphatic recommendation of Beeman Drilling when they reinstalled that.
I got an idea they know what they're doing. But I just, I've always been taught black pipe is for gas and subject to rusting and if subject to use on water.
And Mr. Kelly, I may not be using the correct terminology for that pipe, but it's basically steel pipe. It's a black colored pipe. I call it black pipe. The driller may have a more
Because it's black.
eloquent word for it than I do.
Okay, so none of the couplings, like the one that failed, are in that hole now.
That is what we understand, and we certainly can, that material is still out at the well site, and we can easily make a confirmation there too. We'd be happy to do that for you, Mr. Kelly.
Well, you don't do it for me. I think we need to do it for the city.
City manager.
Just to answer that a little bit, and Bill, you can confirm, but I believe the black steel pipe was the same pipe that's been in there for 10 years. They just replaced it with new.
I yield.
Any other discussion? I'll look for a motion. Vice Mayor?
I move to accept the replacement of well number 13, approve a change order in the amount of $51,805.61 and release the final payment to Beeman Drilling and begin a 1-year warranty period.
A motion, is there a second? Second by Councilmember Crittenden. Any other discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? See that passed 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is item 7D, consideration of resolution number R2015-17, authorizing the mayor to sign application for designation and modification of designation of adequate water supply. Mr. Himmelsaw.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. 1998, the city submitted an application to the Arizona Department of Water Resources, or ADWR, requesting that the department designate Show Low as having adequate water supply. The application was accepted by ADWR in 1999 and was updated again in 2010. ADWR typically requires that the application for designation or modification of adequate water supply be updated approximately every 10 years. Over the past few years, city has acquired Pineview Water System and the Park Valley Fools Hollow Water System as well. Both systems had their designations of adequate water supply updated in 2006. They will need another update filed and approved prior to the end of 2016. In preparation to submit the application for the 2016 update, city staff worked with ADWR to combine the designations into a single adequate water designation for the city of Show Low. The city has existing hydrologic studies to support the adequate water application for the current and projected population. Once combined, the city seeks an adequate water supply designation for the amount of 5,531.22 acre feet per year. This designation will be for a term of 20 years. The next mandatory update we're seeking will be in 2034. Resolution is required authorizing the signatory to sign the application for designation, and resolution number R 2015-17 authorizes the mayor to sign on behalf of the city of Show Low. The resolution is attached. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Councilmember Crittenden.
2 questions. What do we use now as far as water?
Groundwater.
Yeah. Well, if we're approving 5,531.22 acre feet per year, what's the usage now?
I think our current usage is just a little over 2,000, but we also have a committed usage, which they take into account. That is all the platted lots that have not been built on yet, but are platted. And so they count that as well. And that might be another, I think, 1.5 or 2,000 as well. This pretty much is just combining the Pineview, Park Valley Fools Hollow, and the current city of Show Low into one designation and resetting it for 20 years is what we're looking to do.
Okay, second question. There was discussions a couple of years ago about the big cities, the big counties, et cetera, trying to get commitments from the counties and the areas that had very, very good aquifers, trying to get commitments on what their usages were going to be. And then the next step from there is, since that's all they're going to be using, piping the rest of the water down to the water shortages. Would this give them any guidelines that would potentially make that happen?
No, well, let me rephrase that. Pretty much what this does is cities, we're considered a designated water producer. We can do this or we can choose not to do this. By doing this, going after a designation of adequate water supply, it allows us to prove once that we have adequate water for 100 years for a certain term. And then any development that happens in our city during that term, they don't need to go to ADWR and get certification. We just give them a letter saying we'll serve you. So I guess what we're doing is just saying that we have adequate means to this much water. It's plenty for our city and our future projections for the next 100 years. And they only allow to have that commitment for a certain term, and then we have to renew that with ADWR.
Right.
Did I just talk myself in a circle? I think I did.
One thing, if I may add, this designation is for a term of 20 years. However, if at any time in the future the city sees a need to increase that water supply amount, we can go back to ADWR and ask for that to be increased. So we're not locked in for 20 years. It's just we don't have to, we're not required to renew it for 20 years.
That's correct.
Any other questions? Councilmember Kelly?
More of an observation, since I think it's a generally known and accepted fact. We sit on the best aquifer in the state, if not the Southwest. And we have to jump through these hoops. I can't imagine what some poor city's doing that has a hard time obtaining water. Like, what is it, Ashport that hauls it in railroad cars? Are they just gonna say the railroad's got more cars or what? It doesn't matter. It's not our problem. It just shows you sometimes how ridiculous things can get, I think.
Councilmember Crittenden?
There was something our city attorney was going to say.
It was. The only thing I'd add is to that, what Shane and Bill said, is that right now, currently, as the law stands, that you cannot pump water out of this aquifer into a different aquifer. I know that can change someday.
Right.
But what we've done as a city is, and I think you're all well aware of it, we've also secured surface water supplies and other things that we can use in the future. So I think right now as it stands, I'm not too worried about it going to Phoenix, but we've protected ourselves somewhat to that degree. So that's all I was going to say.
The state legislature would have to change the law, right?
Right.
That would take about, what, 10 minutes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they could. That's why we protect ourselves by getting surface water supplies and other things.
And that was something we discussed. We had a pre-application meeting with ADWR down in Phoenix in February, and we talked about you do have availability of surface water, and that isn't included right now in this. We have to prove that we have capability to actually acquire it and use it. So you have to get a plant working, in the works basically to secure that. But right now, this is just off groundwater. And to speak to that, this designation basically says it's physically, legally, and continuously available for the next 100 years, is what the state's telling the city of Shoal.
You did good.
Any other discussion? I'll look for a motion. Vice Mayor?
I move to adopt resolution number R 2015-17, authorizing the mayor to sign the application for designation and/or modification or of designation of adequate water supply for the city of Show Low.
We have a motion. We have a second by Councilmember Kelly. Any other discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? See that pass 5-0. Thank you. Next item we have on our agenda is a summary of current events. Look to council members to summarize any events that they have coming up. Councilmember Alsop.
Thank you, Mayor. Just like what, I think every council member that was here went out and looked at Botit Air. They just did their first fly in, I believe, yesterday. And if everybody should have had a chance to go out there and look at the planes and everything else. It was a great time. I think it's going to be a great partnership there with Botit Air and a whole lot of future. So hopefully everybody can get an opportunity to fly with them and experience the new airlines. Also to remind you that Try in the Pines is this Saturday at Shoalo here in the Aquatic Center. There'll be swimming, running, and bicycling, so please don't hit any of the bicyclers or the runners, please. And just a FYI, from people have been asking that according to the city manager, the sidewalk on North Clark Road will be getting fixed here before too long. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Alsop. Councilmember Kelly.
Yes, tagging on to the airline thing, those of you out there that used to frequently fly with Great Lakes and just discontinued your use because of their lack of reliability, I would ask that you consider in a month or so checking the flight reliability of the new airline. And if it's as good as it looks like it's going to be, maybe you can reestablish your use on a regular basis. That'll kind of help you and everybody else.
Thank you. Councilmember Crittenden.
The Shoalo Chamber of Commerce is having their monthly breakfast at Salterra tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. What that is for all the businesses that belong to the chamber. It's an opportunity to interface with other businesses, promote your businesses, and there's also a presentation by a company each month explaining what goes on and how they can help the chamber members, and the community. So,
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
And if the airline isn't what it's supposed to be, let us know that one as well.
yes, absolutely.
That's all.
I have no report. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few items to report. Tonight's annual National Night Out, that's a nationwide event to increase awareness about police programs in communities such as drug prevention, neighborhood watch, and any other anti-crime efforts. We want to thank our police officers who are working with our citizens this evening and participating in several neighborhood events tonight. Tomorrow's the fourth annual Tip a Cop at Lacano's Restaurant. Our Shoalo police personnel will be providing table and bus service from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. All the proceeds from the tips will benefit the Special Olympics. So we encourage you to have a great meal and be generous in your tipping to the police personnel. As mentioned by Councilman Alsop, the 20th annual Try in the Pines is this Saturday, August 8th. And just to remind the public, the Aquatic Center will be closed to accommodate the swimming portion of that triathlon, beginning at 7 a.m. The annual summer reading program posted record numbers this year at the library. 475 readers signed up, 159 readers finished with reading logs, and over 1,200 attended 70 different events associated with that. A few events for August 15th. It'll be a busy day. The annual Pancake Fly-In Breakfast will be at the Shoalo Regional Airport from 7 to 10 a.m. Then there will also be the Shoot the Deuce Pistol and Rifle Competition at the Shoalo Police Shooting Range. It begins at 8 a.m. That event is sponsored by the Shoalo Lions Club. If you want any more information or to register, go to ShoaloLions.com. At 9 a.m., the BMX racers can register for races at the track at Nicholas Homestead Park. Practice is at 10 and the races will begin at 11. And in the evening, the first hangar dance to honor our veterans will be held at the airport from 5 to 9:30 p.m. Tickets are $30. They're going fast. You can contact Mr. Jerry Howell, or they're available at Walgreens or Shoalo VFW. Thank you.
Thank you. Any seconds? All right. This time we have a scheduling of meetings. Any meetings need to be brought up at this time? Schedule.
Just a reminder, our next council meeting is a special council meeting because of conflicts. It'll be held August 17th. That's a Monday evening at 7 PM.
Please let us know.
It will be rebroadcast in our normal slot on Tuesday evening, so
I'll forget.
Any other discussion?
one more. Last meeting, we mentioned that we were looking at doing a retreat on October 15th. Due to a conflict on that, it'll be scheduled on Thursday, October 29th, beginning at noon. And we anticipate that meeting will be held at the conference room at the City Hall.
Won't be
Anything
there.
else? Look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn, seeing no other business, I'll adjourn this meeting.
Change. Oh, okay. Well,